Hello everyone. So we'll start discussing our chapter, the French Revolution. The whole chapter is divided into different subtopics and each video covers each subtopic. So in today's video, we'll be discussing the ancient regime and its crisis. So before jumping into the discussion, I would like to give an overview of the French Revolution and we'll gradually discuss that. How did it happen? What happened during that course of time? So France, the most prosperous, you can say, the cultural and beautiful nation, has also seen a period of social upheaval in the beginning of 1789 and ending of 1799, where the king has commanded the troops to march into the city fully armed. The people, or you can say the citizens, are breaking into buildings in search of arms. There are riots going on, revolt going on. So many people are getting killed, and eventually 700 people, so many people march into the fortress of Bastille and destroy it. So a lot of things happened during this whole revolution. And why it is so important to discuss it? Because this revolution has made a profound impression on the course of modern history, you can say, as it has triggered the global decline of absolute monarchies while replacing them with republic and liberal democracies. So it is highly important to learn about the French Revolution. So now we'll start discussing our subtopic. So firstly, it is French society, late 18th century. This was King Louis, and he was married to Princess Marie Antoinette. So King Louis was, you can say, the last king of France before the fall of monarchy, which we'll study later on. So he was actually 19 years old, too young, when he succeeded the throne. And he had a great responsibility as the government was already in debt. As you can say in second point, the state treasury was empty upon succession to the throne. The treasury, you can say, the finances of the country, the resources, the money, it was in debt. The financial resources of France had drained and the country was in debt of 2 million livres. This livre, it is a unit of currency in France, and it got discontinued in 1794, but for now, yes, we'll deal with livres. And then gradually what happened, like when you're in debt, what do? You ask for money, you ask your friends, or you go to bank to get a loan. So same thing happened with the state. They asked for money and the lenders who gave them the state credit now started charging 10% interest on the loans. So the country was in huge debt. And even the historians, like if we want to discuss how this French Revolution started or what were the reasons, you can say. So the historians have pointed out that out of the many reasons, one major reason was the political management, or you can say the dismanagement on the part of King Louis XVI. So you can say that he did the major of the groundwork of the revolution. Then coming towards that, what were the reasons for the empty treasury? Long years of war had drained the financial resources of France. So which war we are talking about here? The war which we are talking is the 7 Years' War, or you can say the Global War, which was fought between 1756 and 1763. France was part of it. And then there's this American Revolutionary War, where the France formally allied with the America and entered the war, you can say, in 1778. So the war, as we know, never brings peace, but it definitely drains all of your resources in the form of humanity, manpower, money, finances. All it causes is destruction. So this was one of the major reasons for the empty treasury. And even if you see this third point, in that American Revolutionary War, King Louis helped 13 American colonies to gain independence. So the France was succeeded in doing this, but still they were indebted. Like they were in debt, a huge debt, you can say. Then there's this another reason, the maintenance of immense palace of Versailles and court. If you have a huge grand place, it needs maintenance, and for maintenance you need to spend money. Then, as we have already discussed, that the lenders who gave state the money start charging high interest on the loans. So these were the major reasons for the empty treasury. Now the consequences, like talking about the resources, the finances, or the treasury, it is very important for the country. As we know, in India also we have budgets. We spend a lot of our finances into defense, in research, in education, in healthcare services, construction, manufacturing. So every country does so. We need money, we need finances. So France also had to do this to meet its expenses. It was already in debt, but a country has to go, it has to see everything. So to meet the regular expenses like the army maintenance, court, educational institutes, universities, state, they had to do something. And what did they do? They just increased the taxes. There was no other way out. And even increasing the taxes was not the final solution. Like it would not cover the debt the France was already in. So the French government was forced to spend its maximum budget on interest payments for the debt, and gradually the state increased taxes. And what this pictures it is, tax. Tax is a burden, especially for the normal citizens, for the middle class people. It is a burden because we have limited income and we need to maintain a balance in our investments, the money which is going in, out. So that we'll discuss further. Now, the society of estates, or you can say the ancient regime. France, as like any other country, given in India, we have caste system that we used to have, categorization, discrimination on the basis of castes. So same thing happened. So like any other society, France also had this estate system. So how many estates were there? 3. The first one is clergy. Clergy, as mentioned in the book also, it is a group of persons invested with special functions, you can say, in the church. Then we have second estate, the nobility, and third estate, the commoners. So we'll discuss each state step by step. The first and the second estate. So the first estate comprised of the entire clergy, and it was further divided into higher and lower clergy. So the lower clergy, you can say, had priests, monks, and nuns. So these you can say the lower clergy members constituted about 90% of the first estate. Then coming towards the second estate. Second estate was called the French nobility. Again, it was traditionally divided into 2 further, you can say, categories. First was the nobility of the sword. You can say the people who are in the armed forces. And then the nobility of the robe, you can say, the magisterial class that administers the justice or the civil governments. So these two estates, the first and the second estate, enjoyed certain privileges right from the birth, like the exemption from taxes, feudal dues. So we learn it in the next slide. Then coming towards the third estate. So the third estate comprised all of those who were not members of either of the above two states, or are not divided in the first and second estate. So the third estate together made up the 90% of the French society. You can say the third estate, the commoners, were in majority. And in third estate also there were urban people, there were rural people. Like we can see here, there are big businessmen, merchants, court officials, lawyers. Then there are peasants, artisans. Then there are small peasants, landless laborers, and servants. So there were poor and the rich people in the third estate. So this is the last slide, condition of third estate. So as we've discussed, that third estate consisted of both poor and rich people. Like the poor one, peasants and artisans, which are uneducated or which rely on farming, agriculture. Then the richer ones, which are educated, which are in government services, lawyers, professionals, businessmen. And the peasants made up the 90% of the population, but they owned less land where they cultivated. Like they did farming, but they were not the owners of the land, as 60% of the land was owned by the richer members of the third estate. So this was the condition of the third estate, that there were urban people, there were rural people. And then to make their life more, you can say, tough, the peasants rendered services to the Lord by working in fields and offices, by serving in army. They had to pay the dues, the taxes, and as we have learned that the first and second estate were exempted from the taxes, so the whole burden of this taxation was you can say was on third estate alone. And talking about the taxes, at that time in France, we have l'IIT, a tax levied by the church, or you can say the 1/10 of the agriculture produce, like whatever the production of the farming you have done, 1/10 has to be given to the church. And then it is tax to be paid directly to the state. So there were two taxes, direct and indirect taxes, and the peasants had to pay both of them. So that was the burden which has to be taken by the third estate alone. And there were estimated of 27 million people in the third estate when the French Revolution started. So this was one of the reasons, like the third estate members were not happy because they had to pay the higher taxes compared to the other estates, and they wanted more rights. They had to live a hard life of physical labor and food shortages. We'll discuss this further in the upcoming videos. So far, what we have discussed, just in points, I'll just summarize it. First, the overview of French Revolution, like the decline of the monarchy while replacing it with the liberal and republic democracies. Then we talked about King Louis, and he has a major role, like he's done the groundwork for the revolution. And then we learned, then when he was succeeded, there was this empty treasury, and major reasons why the financial resources of France got drained were the wars, the maintenance cost, and to meet up the cost of the state, to meet up its requirements, the state had to increase the taxes. So the taxes were increased. Then we talked about the three estate or the estate system of France, old regime. First estate, which consisted of clergy, second estate, nobility, and both these two states were exempted from the taxes. And then we discussed about third estate and the condition of third estate. So thank you so much.